Hey people. I so we had a great day today and a really kind of fun evening. Had a dinner tonight and several friends and a couple family members came over. And it was one of these nights where I was having the experience of just feeling like, wow, these are all people who are whose common point of connection is me. Somehow this gaggle of people who would be very unlikely to meet each other in any other way, in any other kind of like, if they were just left to their own devices, somehow, because either I invited them over or they are in town and they're around, and they're connected to me, they're all here now and they're all hanging out and we're making a conversation. And I sometimes have the experience of feeling like, and this may be, there may be more to this than I'm aware of, or than I'm able to immediately articulate, but I sometimes have the feeling that I'm somehow trying to straddle worlds, not because, not out of any kind of like it's not like a moral sense that I should do that. It's more that I feel like I'm able to resonate with people from kind of any a wide diversity, shall we say, of backgrounds and outlooks and opinions and personalities and ways of dealing with other people. And so then when I kind of see that reflected in front of me, when I see a kind of motley crew of people coming together in my presence, probably largely because of my presence, because I am the one who invited them over, there's something about that that's really interesting to me, and I feel like I'm seeing my own, I don't know, my own way in the world somehow. It's like I'm bringing that energy or that intention ever, it's like it's arising in real time among this group of people, and I see people making sense of each other, trying to make sense of each other, not making sense of each other, just kind of allowing their personalities to ricochet off each other in a really fun way. And yeah, and I think I've been reflecting. It's funny because I sat down to do this post and I literally looked at I'm in what I think must be my mom's sewing room now. Haven't really spent any time in this room since we got here. It's got tables in front of you. You're sitting on the table here. It's filled up with tables, and the only area to really even sit down is this bed that I'm sitting on. And so I haven't really been in here, but I sat down in here to do the post because all the other rooms are kind of occupied. I didn't want to bother anybody. And I looked down, and somebody has written a letter to a good friend, and it is discussing friendship and the nature of friendship. And one of the things it says that caught my eye is you only really get a handful of really close friends throughout your life. And I'm not totally convinced that that's true. I don't think that you only get 3 or 4 people that you're close with, which is what the letter says. But I do think that there's a level of closeness, a level of kind of like soul friendship that really is, it really is rare. It really is not, you just don't have that with everybody. And I think, again, I want to make space for it to be possible to have way more than that, and for people that for anyone who, you know, can open their heart to say, I have 100 amazingly close friends, or, you know, 20, I don't know, but I think what came through for me was this sense of like what that actually feels like, what a genuine friendship feels like, what a genuinely close relationship feels like, and what, you know, what that is, genuine closeness. And it's interesting because I've been thinking some about. I was reading the intro to an article. I didn't even really. It's a video that I want to watch on narcissism, and it was talking about narcissism in our culture and the effect that it's having. And the question was kind of being asked, like, is our culture becoming more narcissistic, and if so, what is that doing to our kind of cultural evolution? You know, where is that taking us as a culture, if that is indeed what's happening? And I think that presumably this video is going to explore that question and not just kind of assume at the outset that that's necessarily what's happening, but, you know, look into it in some way. And, you know, one of the things that it mentioned just sort of in passing was that something that we do is we can, in spiritual communities or in spiritual practice, we confuse the separate limited self with the absolute self. And then our unlimited, can never die, has never entered the stream of time self becomes confused with just our ego personality. And now we start sort of launching an immortality campaign. Like, we're going to try and make this separate self be around forever, because we've kind of confused the part of us that's truly immortal and truly beyond time, timeless, incapable of dying, incapable of being born, with the part of us that very much is part of time and is born and will die, and you know, is really part of the time-bound journey. And I just found that insight interesting. I found that question interesting, and that kind of perspective interesting of saying, oh wow, yeah, there are some ways in which, you know, that feels like a familiar thing to me, and I think there's some ways in which that, having it articulated that way, helps me kind of be awake to some of those tendencies, because ultimately there's this tug between immanent, in the worldness, and transcendence, you know, transcendent to the world, beyond the world, not of the world, in the world but not of it. And I think, you know, for some reason this is all coming around to like the sense of friendship, you know, what it really means to have deep friendship, because deep friendship is a very personal thing. It's immanent. It's a concrete, in the world, time bound thing. We may resonate with other people spiritually in all kinds of ways, and especially if we have a spiritual practice, and especially if we're really animated by that energy or that work, or if that's kind of what inspires us, we're going to connect with people frequently, probably, and be able to kind of resonate on that level. And maybe that is what friendship is. You know, I think I'm finding in my life that's more and more, that's the spark of like relationship. That's what creates the spark of relationship and creates an opening to have relationship, to be able to relate in a way that feels meaningful. And so I think where I am is actually looking at friendship and looking at relationship in this way. This is what I'm coming to right now as I'm speaking. I'm kind of realizing that's what's coming up for me, is where, what's the basis of friendship, and what really underpins those deep relationships in my life that feel like they're timeless, and there's a connectedness there in a really truly deep way. And also what creates that spark in a new relationship. What is it about what is it in another human being or in a group that gives me that feeling now of, this is where I belong. This is what I'm most connected to. And I think to some degree I'm wrestling with that. To some degree I'm at peace with where I am with that. But to some degree I'm also still looking, and I'm still observing, and just kind of learning what that's about, learning where I really stand and what I'm really looking for. And I think it's kind of appropriate that here in this deeply historic family kind of context, that's what's coming up for me. And what I know I'm finding really beautiful is, as I was saying at the beginning, the circle of people that are collecting around me, the group that seems to just coalesce around me is I love watching that happen, and I love feeling like worlds are bridging, and in some meaningful way I'm part of bridging worlds. And maybe that's what it's all about for me. Maybe that's what this sense of this spiritual path or the spiritual work is all about. It's about creating those connections and allowing some degree of new insight, new enthusiasm, new truth, new reality to emerge. I know this is kind of rambling, but I'm working it out where this is going, and it feels like a door is cracking open that I'm not fully sure how to articulate yet, like exactly what's in there, but I know it's important, and I know that it's both very personal and very impersonal. It's both very immanent. I'm in the world. Here's what I'm doing in the world, and it's also very transcendent. Here's the connection to something way beyond me, way beyond the world, way beyond time, this moment in time, our culture, way beyond everything. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there, or else I'll just keep talking. But that's what's coming online for me today, and I think this is just the start of something in some ways, because I know I've wrestled with this question for a long time in various ways, and I think it's the fact that it's coming up now tells me that it's still important to me on some level. There's still something there for me to investigate and appreciate and learn from. So that's where I am, people. Much love. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you so much. Talk about people in my life. You're very important to me. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.